Hey, welcome to Texas Football Talk. I'm your host, 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘. Once again, joined by my brother Clint in this episode, another fall preview, talking DBs. How you doing, brother?
Hey, pretty good, man. We just recorded the show with their counterparts, the wide receivers. Obviously, the wide receivers are going to make the DBs better, and the defensive backs should make the wide receivers better as you get through fall camp and then as you get to the first game against University of Louisiana on September 4th. Really, the defensive backs are going to me, what's going to make a difference from the defensive backs this year is going to be how that front seven plays. Obviously that defensive line plays. The more pressure you get on the quarterbacks, the shorter amount of time that the defensive backs have to cover the wide receivers. And I think that's to me, that's going to be the number one priority. Number two, you currently have three returning starters, coming back this year, to play on the defensive backfield. And Josh Thompson, Desean Jameson, and Chris Adamore. And I think at this particular point, those are probably three of your best guys that you have returning. Your thoughts, man, on defensive line play and how it's going to affect the defensive backs and the returning starters?
No, we know that, if you're able to put, pressure on the passer, that you have to, essentially guard your receiver for a little bit less time. And again, we got three returning starters. In my opinion, they're all going to play corner. With Josh Thompson, Desean Jameson, and Chris Adamore. It's that safety position. Who's going to step up and be the starting safeties? You got a group back there with Schooler, Foster, Thompson, Owens, just to name a few that are competing for that starting job. And like you said, it's important to find out who your best five are, and if that requires a position change from corner to safety to put your best five out on the field, that may happen because a guy like Chris Adamore, you talked about, is playing a slot corner, but if you can slide Anthony Cook down the slot and move Adamore to the back end, that may be what you need to do in order to put your best five on the football field.
Yeah, and I think that's what Pete Kwiatkowski, obviously Terry Joseph, and Blake Grenier are trying to figure out at this particular point. Because if you go back and look at it, again, they're not being specific to what these guys are playing. Is a safety or a cornerback? They're all DBs, and like you said, Chris Adamore moving that, move him back to safety, or moving Anthony Cook up to nickel corner, or hell, bringing BJ Foster. I heard BJ Foster playing, that nickel, closer to the line. So we'll kind of see how it works itself out at the end of fall. I can tell you one thing: we need to see needed improvement from this group. There's no way this position group should be 108th in the country and number 9 in the Big 12 when you have the number 2 number 2 rush defense in the league last year
in the Big 12.
In the Big 12 in the Big 12, but you have the pass defense is number 9. So definitely to see much needed improvement from this position group. So starting off with obviously do it all, Desean Jameson, 5'10", 184 pounds, senior, 4-star out of Houston, Texas, fourth-year defensive back who played in 36 career games with 19 starts, earned all Big 12 honorable mention as kick returner, punt returner, and Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year, chosen to the 2021 All Big 12 preseason team. Desean Jameson is the guy that, to me, when they came in this 2018 class, he may be the overachiever of the group. Because if you look at where the rankings were and where you've seen like BJ Foster, Marvin Overshown, Caden Stearns, Anthony Cook, Desean Jameson, Jalen Green, Desean Jameson may have been the lower ranked of all of those guys that came in that 2018 class. If he puts together a really good season this year, he's going to get picked up he's going to be looked at by a lot of NFL execs. Not just, as a defensive back, but his ability to play special teams is be one of the best special teams player in the country is kind of where he's at this particular point. He's a playmaker too. His ability to go up and get the ball, against bigger receivers. He's the ball player. Man, your thoughts on Desean Jameson?
Yeah, I'll be brief with Desean Jameson because we've seen him play for 4 years. But yeah, he started out as a wide receiver. Again, because he was the lowest ranked defensive back in that 2018 class. But again, like you said, going to the next level, he's probably going to be a slot corner because he's 5'10" and 184 pounds. But where he's going to be able to add to football teams is that special teams kick return, punt return game. So yeah, I can definitely see him going to the pros in kind of that role. But again, he was chosen, like you said, as all Big 12 preseason team. I want to see him end up there at the end of the year. He has the opportunity to do that, chance to do that. And just looking for big things out of Desean Jameson and being that leader in the back end this year. So Let's transition over to Josh Thompson. Where's number 9? He's 6 foot, 191-pound senior from Nacogdoches in Far East Texas. It's his 5th year with the University of Texas. He's played in 36 games, 13 starts. This year he was named to the Ronnie Lott Impact Trophy watch list. So those guys are keeping an eye on him to see where he ends up this year. As far as production from last year, 28 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, and 1 interception. Again, he's going to lock down that other side. With Desean Jameson. Again, I've loved Josh Thompson since he came on the 40 acres. I've always called him a Swiss Army knife. Wherever you need to put Josh Thompson to make your defensive backfield better is always where he seemed to end up to be. But again, we're going to need to see him and Desean Jameson kind of lock it down to be able to improve on that 108th rank in the country. And where I really see that is I could see being in the Big 12, being a little bit lower down on the pass charts compared to other leagues, as explosive as the Big 12 is and the passing and the quarterbacks that we face. But it's the number 9 ranking in the Big 12. We need to be around 2-3 within our own conference. And I think we could do that with this group of defensive backs.
Josh Thompson is versatility. You talk about it all the time. I know he's one of your favorite guys, man. But is that versatility? It may be, point where I could really see Josh Thompson playing at one of those safety roles as well. But again, it's going to come down to who are your best 5 guys. If they see a better cover corner, they put him there. I can honestly see Josh Thompson moving back to a nickel or safety. That's how versatile he is. Moving on to Anthony Cook, number 11, 6 foot 1, 191-pound senior, 4-star at Houston, Texas. One of those guys that came out of that 2018 class. 4-year defensive back who's played in 35 games with 7 starts. Participated in the 2018 U.S. Army All-American Bowl. And since his time, I think recorded 18 tackles, 10 solo, and 1.5 tackles for loss. That's the 2020 stats there. To me, Anthony Cook, he shows up in bunches. You've seen him, you're talking about like a game against Oklahoma where he shows up in bunches. And then you won't see Anthony Cook for a while, and then all of a sudden he shows up in bunches again. To me, Anthony Cook's a ball player. I think where he is at this particular point is he may be stuck behind Chris Adamore at that nickel spot. They don't have a spot for him either, at either one of the cornerback positions. And I think he's I think they started rotating him into the safety position as well. And I think he has the size of 6 foot 1, 190 pounds to be able to play safety. And I think from, what we're hearing in fall camp, he may be rotating with the safeties to kind of see where he's at. Your thoughts on Anthony Cook?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think your starters are Adamore, Thompson, and Jameson. And I think him and the transfer from McNeese, Darian Dunn, are competing for that 4th and 5th corner position. But again, I think if Darian Dunn and Anthony Cook are your 4th and 5th best corners, you're probably in a very good position. But we need these guys to be productive. Again, matching roster for roster, 4-star, 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 4-star. We should have a very good defensive back unit, and I don't know where Phil Steele has us ranked currently. We probably aren't in his top 20 with that 108 ranking last year. But the talent is there. It's just, can Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon get the most out of these defensive backs? And Anthony Cook is one of those guys who, like you said, came in ahead of Desean Jameson. They were actually teammates at Houston Lamar, Anthony Cook being the higher rated guy. But something's happened. Not to say that he hasn't been a good football player, but the production hasn't met his initial ranking coming out of high school.
Yeah. Number 38, Phil Steele's got us ranked number 38, best defensive backfield in the country. So there's some hope there, or he thinks there's some hope there with our defensive backs from that 108th ranking to 38th best defensive back in the country. And then on to Chris Adamore, man, 6 foot 1, 204 pounds, man. A heat-seeking missile, but also can cover and turn the hips and cover. 4-star out of Lakewood, California, a 3-year defensive back who's played 23 games with 10 starts, played in all and started all games at that Spur position. And then Jeremy, I think I'm going to let Jeremy kind of get into the notes of his stats, man, because when Jeremy did the stats on the defensive backs, it's one of the things he brought up this morning was the stats. And, he's logged 46 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, and 1 interception. Your thoughts, man, on Chris Adamore?
And that's in 10 games. So average 4.6 tackles per game. Again, I know he's closer to the line of scrimmage and in the action in the nickel or slot than the cornerbacks on the outside, but very productive. The most productive football player returning in this defensive backfield. So Chris Adamore can do it all. I heard you say a little bit earlier he may be working with the safeties in order to beefing up that room because, again, you lost Chris Brown, you lost Caden Stearns. You don't have a returning starter at safety. Has BJ done it before? Yes. Has Brenden Schooler done it before at Oregon? Yes. But interesting to see the dynamic of Chris Adamore. But I think he may be my new Josh Thompson. I think he's the kind of the guy that stirs the drink, that allow you to be versatile and more flexible because of his skill set. Because, again, he was the most productive, and it kind of shocked me last year to see, averaging 5 tackles per game as a corner is phenomenal. And we already know his ability to make up speed and to make the plays on the ball downfield if called upon. So very impressed with Chris Adamore and looking for big things out of him this year.
Yeah, when you kind of look at the numbers here, and I'm kind of going down the size here. A lot of length, man. A lot of length. Your shortest guy being Desean Jameson, they're about 5'10", but everybody else is well over 6 foot, 6'1", 6'1", 6'2". So the length is there, and I think the size is there to be versatile and where you want these guys to play, either at defensive back. And if you go down and look what you've recruited at over the last couple of years too, that length is also there as well. In individuals like, Jameer Johnson, Ismail Ibrahim, and J.D. Coffey, to name a few, that are probably over 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". So Darian Dunn, transfer, 6'1", 192 pounds, senior, out of Oakdale, Louisiana. He's graduate transfer from Monique State. First team All Southland Conference in 2019. Again, somebody that's been very, very productive in the league in which they played. 29 games, Monique State, 23 starts. 83 tackles, 7 interceptions. So if you're looking at between 29 games, 7 interceptions, you're looking at 1 interception every 4 games there, and then 20 pass breakups. So definitely getting his head around to find the ball, because when you're looking at 20 pass breaks and 7 interceptions, 27 total between 29 games, and then named to the 21 Reese's Senior Bowl top 250 watch list. Man, really excited about Darian Dunn. I don't know if they brought him in to booster, create competition at that defensive back position. I think there was a lot of guys that, a lot of pundits out there that thought that Darian Dunn was going to come in and be able to unseat one of our cornerbacks, which we haven't seen yet. Your thoughts on Darian Dunn?
No, that's why it's exciting to see how he progresses in the fall, because you do want to see him challenged. Again, these 4 or 5 corners that we're talking about, and we're going to go down at the very end, we're going to talk about, the sophomores and Keaton Crawford and Jadae Barron, who we seen be productive in the spring game. But talking about him specifically, this is a position where you generally get injuries, or Texas has been known to have a couple of corners go down during the season. So whether it's to take a starting position or create depth at that 4th and 5th corner spot, like we were talking about with Anthony Cook, is necessary sometimes, because this is a position group because of their slight builds can get beat up and a trip as the season goes on, and be necessary to bring a guy like Darian Dunn. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does this fall, whether he competes for a starting position or he just makes the roster just a little bit deeper, like you said.
Yeah. Your thoughts being on Jalen Thompson?
So, moving over to the second position, talking about Jalen Thompson, 6 foot, 188 pound sophomore from Lufkin, a 4-star. Started the last 2 games of the season against K-State and Colorado. Posted a team high of 6 tackles, 5 of those solo against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. And then again, very productive in the Kansas State game, 3 solo tackles, 1 pass breakup, and his first career interception against Kansas State. So as you can see, in the 2 games in which he started, the last 2 games of the year, very productive young man. Again, from East Texas, we know what East Texas dudes do when they come to the University of Texas. They generally ball out. And I think Jalen Thompson is one of those guys who's going to continue to do that. I think he is, if anybody's solid, I think as a starting safety at this point, I would lean towards this guy more than the experience of B.J. Foster and Brenden Schooler. I think Jalen Thompson's that playmaker. And I know Steve Sarkisian brought him up yesterday, saying that he added more good weight and he's working very hard and he's competing back there. So really, really, really impressed with Jalen Thompson. Excited to see what he brings to the
I'm going to throw this out. And I think Jalen Thompson has the opportunity to be the next best great DB at the University of Texas. And again, coming out as a true freshman the way he did at the end of the year last year because of some of the injuries we had, and be able to do what he did in those few games, I think you will see, I think he fits Pete Kwiatkowski's defense really well from a size standpoint, from a versatile standpoint. I think you'll see him play all over the place, to include up on the line, probably, rushing the quarterback, from some silly angle or whatever the case may be. But really, really excited about Jalen Thompson and what he brings to this defensive back group. And time is experience is only going to make him better. And so I see Jalen Thompson doing really, really good things, man, because he's got some safeties that came into this last class. They're going to push him for playing time. Next, BJ Foster, 6'2", 199 pounds. Kind of keep this one short. Everybody knows about BJ Foster. He was a five-star coming out of Eggleton, Texas. Registered 41 tackles, 25 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 3 pass breakups. Trying to figure out where he's going to be at. There's some thoughts that they may bring him down. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read something where I think they were playing him at the nickel position. Can he play that position? He's going to have to cover slot. He's going to have to cover slot receivers. So turning his hips and getting in space and doing those things. I don't see BJ Foster having a problem playing around the line of scrimmage. He likes the big hits. He likes to come down and hit. I think they got to figure out where the best place to play BJ Foster going into this season. Your thoughts on that?
And that's it. It's never been BJ's ability to get in the mix and play close to the line of scrimmage. Like, to me, he's always been a box safety. Where BJ's gotten in trouble is his coverage skills. And so if he starts at that box safety, that strong safety position, and Jalen Thompson's you're free, then again, you got to figure out if he's a liability in coverage, and where he's best suited for me is in sub packages. When you know you got a third long down and distance and you want to send somebody on a blitz, or you want to have him just covering the back out of the backfield on the underneath stuff. But I think he has the potential to be a very productive player in Pete Kwiatkowski's system, as long as they find a position that you're talking about that he can most help the football team and help himself. But in those sub packages, when you need a big play, because he's always been susceptible to big plays, big hits, and sacks. It's just I worry about his coverage skills. So we'll see. And I know Blake Gideon and Terry Joseph are working on that this fall, and we'll see what it brings in the fall season for BJ Foster. But again, he's been on the 40 acres for 4 years. He's a 5-star. We know what he can do. It's just put him in that best position to succeed, which we know the coaches will. And that brings me to another very experienced guy, Brenden Schooler. The 3-star transfer from Oregon, initially played wide receiver when he came here to the 40 acres. Again, he started out at Oregon as a defensive back. Really wondered when he came here why he wasn't in the defensive backfield. They thought he was better at receiver. This coaching staff is moving him back to the defensive side of the football. Saw him be productive in the spring game. He was part of the first teamers coming out there. He earned, again, like a Desean Jameson, where he really fits, and hopefully he gets some time this year, is in special teams. He was twice earned all Pac-12 first team honors as a special team guy. So hopefully we can get some contributions from him at the special teams as well as at the safety position. Your thoughts on Brenden Schooler?
Yeah, Brenden Schooler, man. Like you said, coming from Oregon, he was a Pac-12. I think freshman, one of the top freshmen coming out of the Pac-12 before he transferred at that safety position. And again, it came in. The previous coach staff wanted to play him at wide receiver. We thought he'd probably be best at safety. Kind of glad he moved back to safety. So we'll kind of see where Brenden Schooler plays in this. Again, this is a rotation the coaches kind of have to play through. You got to figure out who your best 5 guys are and in what positions they currently play. So we'll see at the end of fall kind of where he sits at. But at the beginning of spring, he was playing with the ones, man, and BJ Foster was playing behind him, and he was playing next to Jalen Thompson. Brings us to another guy in Tyler Owens, number 44, 6'2", 203 pounds. And I think that number is going to reflect where Tyler Owens eventually goes. And I think that if you don't see Tyler Owens see the field in the defensive backfield this year, there's a good chance that he's probably going to move towards where DeMarvion Overshown has played over the last couple of years. And it'd be good for DeMarvion Overshown maybe to get in Tyler Owens' ears and say, hey, this may be a better position for you to go play. Obviously a 4-star. Hell, I think that, 247 had him as a 5-star coming out of Plano, Texas, based on, his speed, his size. But Tyler Owens just didn't have a lot of football playing time. I think he started playing football as a junior, if I'm not mistaken, sophomore or junior. So only time will tell where Tyler Owens is going to find himself. But I can tell you, me and Jeremy think that they'll eventually spin him down and he'll play that DeMarvin Overshown role. Your thoughts on Tyler Owens?
Man, I'm going to be brief on Tyler Owens because, I've loved him since he came on campus, that size, speed that he had. I just, like you said, he's new to football, but we got to find a way to make this kid more productive. Whether, like you said, it's dropping him down to the linebacker core. He was like I said, when he came in with his class on the defensive side of football, because of that inexperience with that size speed combo coming out of Plano, I was really, really interested in seeing how productive this kid could be. And again, he's the first guy down on kickoff most times. When he was a freshman, it was him and Marcus Tillman were the first guys down on the kickoff team in their first two games. I think it were against Louisiana Tech and Rice. I'm like, we got two guys in Marcus Tillman and Tyler Owens who are going to be dogs for the University of Texas the next 4 years, and we haven't seen it. So hopefully Pete Kwiatkowski, Jeff Cho, and or Blake Gideon or whoever is coaching him up, whether it be at the linebacker position or safety position, starts to get the production out of Tyler Owens that we think his size, speed, combo, body type can give to the 40 acres. But yeah, just excited to see where he fits and to see if he can become more productive in other places other than kickoff.
And it comes down to that one-on-one time with these coaches for development. And I think that you've seen that numerous times now in multiple position groups where they know a guy has the talent to be really good. It's really just spending that one-on-one time with them to be able to develop those guys, man. And I think, again, we're doing this on Saturday, the 7th of August. And you've heard that, Jeff Banks pulled Jatavian Sanders aside and did one-on-one drills with him while the rest of the group was going through, whatever they were doing as a football team or as a position group. To me, that's what's important, man, is to be able to do that, get that one-on-one time with those coaches and say, hey, you know what, this is what I need you to work on. Or, hey, let me pull you aside and say, hey, this is what you have. This is what you're doing. This is what I need you to do. I think that's absolutely important. And then when you're talking about guys like impact freshmen and sophomores, I think everybody kind of loses their mind when they look at the recruiting class. This recruiting class, as we're currently speaking as the 2020 recruiting class. But you also have to realize what you have currently in those last recruiting classes that came in. Keaton Crawford, 4-star out of Tyler, Texas, sophomore. Jahdae Barron, 4-star out of Pflugerville. Heard great things about these guys as far as being cover corners. And it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't start fighting for time, at those cornerback positions. And then Jameer Johnson, 4-star out of Pasadena, California. Ismail Ibrahim, a guy out of South Oak Cliff, Texas.
Kimball.
There is Kimball High School out of the Dallas area, who's also a freshman. And J.D. Coffey, a 4-star at Kennedale, Texas, who's probably going to be competing for safety time as well, man. Your thoughts, man, on these impact freshmen and sophomores?
Again, like we talked about the other day when we lost out on the Bryce Anderson commitment, had to go back and look at the roster and be like, hey, these guys were freshmen. The sophomores were freshmen during the COVID year. So they really got no work in the spring, got no work in the summer. So Keaton Crawford and Jahdae Barron, to be as productive as they were at the end of the year last year, again, talking about Kansas State and Colorado, the last two games, when most of these guys saw playing time, they were very productive, like you said. And I believe they are going to start competing for playing time, if not the back half of this year, definitely next year. And then you're bringing in physical guys like Jameer Johnson, Ismail Ibrahim, and then a true center fielder in J.D. Coffey who can definitely lay the wood too as well. But, yeah, young kids, underclassmen in this current program that are going to compete over the next couple of years for playing time because you're going to have to remake your whole cornerback room next year when Thompson's gone, Jameson's gone, Cook is gone, Dunn is gone, and you're left with nothing but Adamore. So, again, Crawford, Barron, Johnson, Ibrahim are the guys that are going to have to step up and fill those roles.
Yeah, it's possible if you look at it. That's what I was about to say. It's possible these guys you need to develop now because these are the guys more than likely they're going to be playing next year. Because if you look at it, outside of Jalen Thompson, who's a sophomore, every one of these guys could pack up their stuff and go to the NFL, to include Chris Adamore, who's a junior, who will be draft eligible. So you could possibly lose every one of your starters this year. So you need to be prepared in developing those guys that are behind you. But at the same time, if your coaching staff feels comfortable enough that these guys can play starting next year. It gives you an opportunity to go out there and get those guys that you may have an opportunity to develop that just need a little bit more time developing, that are a lesser star number. So your thoughts, man, on this defensive back room?
No, it's got to get better than the 108th best group in the country. It's got to get better than the number 9 ranked group in the conference. But I think the talent is there. It's just, again, with every position group we talk about, can these new coaches get the most out of who they have coming back and playing? And we're going to start finding out on September 4th. So, yeah, I think, like we started the show off, pass rush is going to help these guys. I think Keandre Coburn, Devondre Sweat, Alfred Collins, Jacoby Jones, and all the guys we've already talked about on the defensive line podcast are going to be able to help these guys. But at the same time, they got to improve on their cover skills as well and lock these receivers down.
Absolutely, man. Hey, hope you like this podcast. We appreciate you listening as always. If you did, please hit that like button. Give us your thoughts on who you see starting these the 5 defensive back positions. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. We'd appreciate it. So you know when our content is coming out. You can find us on Twitter at Texas Football Talk, on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, and on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. We appreciate listening as always, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.